it's just the belief that I'm not good enough, that there's something wrong with me, and that it's weird. Like I can see genius in others. I see skill in others. I see amazing things in other people. It's easier to see it in other people. And then there's this part of me that's just like, you don't have it, you're like not enough. I see every mistake I make. I see every name I forget. I see every stumble, it's just like every single blip. I'm like front row seat to my own idiocracy. And I have over the years, I would say that part has softened back, like it's kind of been heard enough. It's been seen enough. It's been worked with enough that it's like, okay, you're right. I'm overreacting, okay. You're enough. You're more than enough. Okay. This is enough. It's more than enough. And it's been a cool place to work.
Hello and welcome to the Biohackher Podcast. I'm Azra, your host and founder of Biohackher. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach specializing in longevity for women, a health and wellness journalist, writer, corporate consultant, and a biohacking advocate. Biohackher is a space where we can explore ways to optimize our health to live well longer. Whether it's through improving our nutrition, exercising, cryotherapy, supplementation, technology, and more, I'll be bringing you information and interviews with the best longevity experts to help you understand what you can do to optimize your health, prevent disease, and slow down or even reverse the symptoms of aging by taking control of your unique bio-individuality. Want to know more? Let's dive in. Hey guys, before we jump into the next episode, I wanted to take a quick moment of your time to tell you about the next Live Well Longer retreat that I'll be co-hosting with Camilla Thompson. If you've been feeling the pull to pause, reset, and reconnect with the woman you're becoming, then this is your moment. Join us for the next Live Well Longer retreat, which will be held from the 1st to the 6th of May in 2026 at the beautiful Reviva Resort in Bali. This isn't just a holiday. It's a transformational experience designed to help you reset your biology, restore your balance, and reimagine what aging well truly means. Across 6 days, you'll immerse yourself in restorative practices, nourishing food, movement, workshops, deep rest, and soul-level connection with a community of like-minded women who are all committed to living well longer. It's the kind of retreat that stays with you long after you return home. The clarity, the shifts, the confidence, the reconnection to your healthiest, most grounded self. If you're ready to invest in your well-being and step into a new chapter feeling renewed and inspired, I'd love you to join us. Register your interest now at livewelllongerretreats.com. Spots are limited. Now on to the podcast. Damian Chaparro, welcome to the Biohacker Podcast. How are you doing?
Really good. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit of background, because you've kind of come from a different pathway, haven't you? We used to work in the corporate sector and now you're in wellness. How did you get there?
I've zigged and I've zagged. Well, really, the source of it is that I have two parents that were quite polar. My mother was, a whirling dervish and a meditator and a yogi and very spiritually oriented. And my dad was an engineer. And so essentially my early life, I listened to my dad, and I went to school and got a degree in business and in IT and started consulting. So I was working in corporate America, consulting and building, enterprise level websites. And it was a great period of my life because I realized what I didn't want to do. And that forced me to start looking around and searching. And I just happened, it was real luck. There are these kind of sliding door moments in your life. And I had one of those where a friend of mine invited me out to Los Angeles to just visit and hang out. But I ended up getting to know a retreat center that he was working at. And he thought I'd be a good fit, which I didn't think I'd be a good fit, and I was just lucky enough to get to go and interview, and somebody else thought I'd be a good fit. And I got to start, get a foot in the door of wellness in a really special place in the world. And so I started working at the ashram in 2005. And that was the big leap. That was the massive jump from corporate to wellness. And it's also the reason why there was originally quite an imposter syndrome going on. I was teaching yoga without having any business teaching yoga other than having practiced, a bit. But yeah, it's been an incredible ride. One I would never turn back from. I feel really lucky to have found something that just feels deeply aligned and that I feel deeply connected to. And there's never a day that I'm not practicing and learning along with anyone else that I share anything with. So it just seems like a nice little thing to have as I move through life.
Yeah, I totally relate to your journey because I've been on a similar journey, and I look at, and I still consult into the corporate sector now, but it doesn't resonate with me as much as what the wellness space does for me now. And trying to find that moment where you do the cut off and actually say, right, that's it, leaving that behind and then moving forward. That can be challenging, and it can be quite confronting to make that decision. Was it very certain in your mind that this is something that you wanted to do and move forward, or was there you mentioned imposter syndrome, because that does play a role in the decision making process, doesn't it?
Yeah. To be fair, I probably had a part of me that felt like a bit of an imposter even after I got 2 degrees at university and started the consulting job. And it's like, who am I to be walking into this corporation as a consultant with my tie and my BMW and, as the consultant. So it's funny, that part of me, I wasn't born necessarily around wellness, but it certainly got inspired or kind of sparked, from stepping into something really new and really different. And I didn't know until I did. And I would say this is probably one of the lights that switches on for many people on retreat with us, is that you don't know what you don't know. And you can't really know what you don't know until you experience it firsthand. And so I had an experience where I went through a week-long retreat, and I had done little short retreats before of different types. And of course, you know, and your audience probably knows that there is a wide variety of wellness experiences out there. And, I would just say, if you've had one that didn't align or didn't feel good, try again, because once you have something that really sparks that thing inside, it's unmistakable. And you realize that there is a door that can open that is probably the only door worth walking through. And so I had one of those experiences, and it only took a few days into a week-long retreat for me I really can almost hear the voice in my head going, oh my God, like, this is what it's all about, And even if I went back to, if somehow something happened and I had to go back and do something completely different, and it wasn't in wellness, which I can't imagine happening, but if that were to happen, I still think that the toolkit that I've developed and the way of seeing life and the way of prioritizing and the way of working with my internal and external world to create a life that's enjoyable, I would apply that anywhere I went, and it's a shame. I really think it's a shame that we don't do this as part of our culture. I think we would have not only, healthier children and healthier families, but we would just have a healthier world. I have no doubt. Yeah.
I agree. And I think potentially it can be quite confronting for people to make that change, because people can become so set in their ways. And I think you touched on it there in regards to the people that come to Otaha for a retreat, that it's not until they take themselves away from their normal situation, from their day-to-day lives, and experience something new, that they realize the possibility of an alternative, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. I still every once in a while have a moment where I'm not taking care of myself. Things start to kind of slide, and I'm turning 50, so I can feel that happening. And there's just this whole thing. And there will be a part of me that just kind of feels like, oh, well, just getting older, And then I'll do something that kind of changes the gears and gets me back on track. And I'll do a few things, and I'll spend some time, and I'll nourish myself, and I'll move myself, and I'll meditate myself, and just do all the things that I know I should do. And I'll be damned if it doesn't just turn right back around and I feel, 20 years younger again within just a day or two worth of focus. So it's such a good toolkit to have. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely a mindset thing as well, I think, because you can get caught in that vortex of same, and if you start to think, oh, I'm getting older, and I mean, like I watch my parents and they just kind of, I feel like they give up sometimes. And that's something
Yeah.
we really need to be mindful of not doing if we want to age well, and have a healthy life for longer. I think it very much comes back to that mindset and really having purpose in life. Do you find that that's the case as well, that when you really focus on your purpose in life, that sparks you back up?
Purpose is massive, eh? Yeah, I even noticed with my daughter, like because she takes a lot of my time. She's 2. So we're in a phase where I'm giving a lot of time to her and to the family. And that simple, like she's number one, you
Mm.
know? It's just really simple. Like she just took the number one spot in my life. And basically, whether I'm changing a diaper or giving her a bath or just rolling around in the grass, it's just so simplifying and clarifying to kind of go, this is all I'm doing right now. And it actually, when I'm able to do it, and when I'm really just able to be with her and just be with her and let go of any part of me that feels like it needs to be doing 7 other things, then, these beautiful moments open up, and it's, life becomes simple and clear and easy. So that one aspect of having kids for me has been such a nice teacher. And I think that purpose could be anything. Yeah. I mean, the purpose can be our work. The purpose can be any number of things. I have, one of the practices I work with a lot is I call it lenses. So the way I orient into wellness is lenses first, and then I look at rhythms, and then I look at levers. So lenses is basically the way that parts of me see the world. The way that parts of me see my purpose, my priorities, what I have to do, what I haven't done, what's enough, what's not enough, what's right, what's wrong. So basically looking at anything that creates emotion or impulse or craving or attachment, or basically from the inside out. So lenses, right? And then the second aspect is rhythms. So rhythms just have to do with looking at how I align my life to nature, and how do I move my body. Sometimes I love this. I can't remember where I heard it from first, but somebody kind of drew this image of like a chimp. Imagine a chimp or a bonobo that is dropped into like downtown Sydney and is like a hipster Sydney bonobo, and like has the vape pen, eats the hamburgers and the chips, has the office job, spends eight hours a day there, and then goes home and maybe is like working on a startup on the side and has the side hustle, and just like the modern life. And this bonobo or this chimp is also maybe like hot and cold plunging, and like doing the things, but then it's like smashing a couple lines of cocaine on the weekend, and like, it's like just doing the whole thing,
Yeah.
and it all of a sudden becomes absolutely insane. You're just like, this would be ridiculous to imagine that a creature would actually have a balanced life.
Yeah.
In a modern world where imagine it going to like hunt for its food in a big box with like fluorescent lights, and then going to like from box to box, from air conditioning to heated to, this whole thing. And so as many times as I can, and as often as I can, the idea of rhythms is like kind of aligning yourself with as closely as you can in a modern world, like not throwing away technology, not like, not criticizing your life because you still use a computer or a phone or whatever. Like you're still working in the modern world, but you're really paying attention to how it is that you can align with those natural rhythms. And then the last one for me is levers. Actually, like, okay, cool. Like I've got those first 2 going, and I would say these are like in order for me. Like lenses is number 1, because if you're unaware of your perspective, of the parts of you that believe things or want things or are fearful of things or whatever, and you're approaching, say, your exercise, you can get really out of balance with exercise, right? You can get really out of balance with food. You can have eating disorders and all sorts of stuff with the best of intention, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so So lenses, number one, and then that allows you to approach, kind of your rhythms in a good way. And then I think it also allows us to approach levers, which I just call, everything else, your wearables, your all the tools that we have, all the medicine, all the functional medicine, all the testing, and all of this kind of maybe more medical and kind of tech focused stuff. Because I think if we don't have lenses first, even that can somehow not fulfill us. We might live a life of 140 years, and that life actually might not be as enjoyable as we'd like it to be. So, yeah, that's kind of my way of looking at the whole thing, and priority sits right up there at the top.
Completely agree. I think your point about if we don't look at what we're doing in our lives with those lenses, that regardless of what we're doing, we're not going to be able to achieve that sense of satisfaction or that sense of grounding and contentment necessarily. We've really got to constantly, I think, reevaluate where we're at in our life to continue to be able to progress forward and to continue to make sure that we're evolving and growing as individuals. I think that from my perspective, for myself personally, that's what I like to do with myself. Like I have goals and I have challenges, and yes, I suffer from imposter syndrome as well. But it's great to really look at it from that perspective, as you've just described. I think it kind of helps to put things into context.
Hey, so I know that you're a change expert. What
Yeah.
did you do for New Year's? Do you use New Year's as a way to create change? I bet you're or is it not necessarily New Year's?
Well, I don't like to wait for New Year to create change in my life, because I think that what happens is that people set themselves up for failure because they think, okay, this is the time that I'm going to, it's a new year, it's a new way of being, and this is the time I'm going to commit to doing something that's going to create change in my life in a sustainable way. Great, fabulous. But the stats show that most people fail pretty quickly within a few months in terms of their resolutions that they may have attempted to commit to. So I guess for myself personally, I set myself goals right throughout the year, and pretty proud to say that most of the goals that I set myself, I achieve. I can be, as my husband says, I can be a bit of a stubborn bitch. So that's it. But I see that as a positive thing, right?
Yeah, get stuff done.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that it's a very individual thing. I think it's a number of variables contribute to whether you can create change in your life. We get so concreted to the norm. We get so concreted to our day-to-day routines that, as you highlighted before, we don't often know that there's a new normal out there for us until we push ourselves outside the comfort zone and go out there and test the waters and try something new. Or we get to a point where we get a tipping point and we become so dissatisfied with our current situation that glass of water starts completely spilling over, and then you are tipped into trying to create some new change in your life.
By necessity.
Yeah.
That describes me when I moved from tech to wellness.
Is that right?
There was definitely it was suffering played a big role. Just
were you burnt out?
No connection. Yeah, definitely. Almost every day was like a micro burnout. Mainly, if I look back on it, yeah, I don't think sitting with a computer for 10 hours a day was doing me any good. I didn't really have any practices that, reminded me to wake up or to stretch or to, have walking meetings or do things that could have made that a healthier environment. But I would think even more than that, if I were to use my framework of lenses, I think I didn't really care and I didn't want to do what I was doing. And so parts of me inside were essentially just trying to get through the day. Mm-hmm. There was no passion. There was no purpose. There was no connection to what I was doing. And
passion.
I think that is actually an exhausting way to live a life. Hard to measure, but I suspect, at least 70% of the exhaustion and the burnout that I felt then was really just having to do with my relationship with work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're
So
alone. I think there are lots and lots of people out there that feel the same way, but just tolerate it because they have family commitments, they have to provide for their families. I know lots of single mums, as an example, that stay in jobs that they absolutely hate because they have to be able to provide for their family, right? And to create that change, to go to something else that they might love or be more passionate about, is a risk for them financially. And because of their love and their passion for their children, which, as you've just pointed out, you do put your children first, right? There's no love deeper than the love that you feel for a child. I feel. I certainly experienced that when I had my first child. And if you're prioritizing your family, then it makes it very difficult for you to try to create that change in your life, to try to step outside of an environment and a life which is not serving you and which is not making you happy. So I often look at it with the lens of incremental changes. So what can you start to do to start to nudge yourself into a direction and into a life which is going to make you happier, which is going to make you more fulfilled, make you more satisfied. And it doesn't have to happen overnight, but if you start to think about it, I'm a big believer in manifestation as well. I think if you put the energy out there, what you are wanting will come into your life at the right time. And so really looking at how can you create those small little nudges in your current life to be able to create that new environment that you're wanting to step into and to really be the new you that you want to be.
yeah, I'd like to think that if I was back in that job, let's say I couldn't leave, and I just didn't have the money or didn't have the space or whatever, and I had to stay in a job where I wasn't initially aligned. I would love to think that now current me would almost like take it as a challenge to develop myself and my skills and my way of being with people, because I think I felt a little bit stuck. I felt like there wasn't any mobility. I didn't really have any, like, I didn't set any big, hairy, audacious goals. I didn't really kind of go like, you know what? I don't actually really give a crap about this website, but I really want to I want to pursue excellence. I want to be exceptional, and I want people to take notice, and I want to achieve great things in this life. And I'm just going to work on being excellent in this non-excellent job so
Mm-hmm.
that I can be good at excellent no matter what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so like, even if I was a janitor or a busboy or something like that, I would hope that I would take that perspective these days. It's kind of come slowly for me, I guess, as more from entrepreneurship, I guess, and from growing a business, that perspective has come about. But I think it would serve all of us, especially like when we feel a little stuck. Like, if you're listening right now and you feel a little, like there's not really any hope, maybe your managers don't listen, or somebody, it feels stuck. Just set yourself a crazy goal,
Mm-hmm.
like something crazy, and just
Yeah.
go at it,
Yeah.
and just like light the fire of like, who gives an F, and like go for it. And every day you show up, just like give it 110% and try things you've never tried before, and have conversations you might be afraid to have, and just keep pushing into things. And I actually think the universe actually starts moving quite quickly,
It
and
does.
people take notice, because most people don't do that.
Mm-hmm. It does. I remember years ago when I had my first child, I kind of did things back to front. So I'm 56 years of age now. I had my first child when I was 20. And at the time, I was pretty devastated because he was a little surprised, right? And it kind of threw a spanner in the works. I had all of these plans to go to university. And I kind of thought, I had a moment where I thought, oh, this is not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to achieve my goals and my career ambitions. And I really wanted to become a journalist. And I remember some close people around me saying, oh, there's no way you're going to be able to go to university now. There's no way that you're going to be able to get a degree and become a journalist now. You're a mum now, and that's what you've created in your life, and that's it. And I thought, really? You think so? I'm like, watch me.
And no, I
Nice.
absolutely set the goal. And 3 university degrees later, I remember sitting up till 2 a.m. in the morning. I had 2 children by then as well. I would be sitting up to 2 a.m. in the morning studying. Not something I recommend now as a biohacker, by the way, but you do what you
Yeah.
do to get by. And then taking the kids with me into lectures, and they'd fall asleep, and having to get fellow students to help me carry them out to the car. Just so that I could actually study, get my degree done, and juggle a full-time job as well, while being a mum as well. And I think when you
It's amazing. I mean,
when,
just being a mother of 2, amazing. And then
well,
all of
3
that,
actually.
just
I've
like
got 3
insane.
now.
Or 3. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
super
think
mom, a
in
superhuman.
but it's a mindset thing. I mean, I just think that if you have the belief in yourself, right? If you have that real yearning of wanting to do something in your life, believe that you can do it. And just, like you said, just go for it. Find a way, find a path. Yes, you might think, and again, later in life, I got to a point again where I thought, I've got to get out of this. I don't want to do this anymore. And I thought, how am I going to do that? By that time, I was getting a divorce, again, young children still. And I thought, I'm stuck. I was one of those women that I just described before. I have to make sure that I can maintain my finances and be able to provide my children and send them to school and feed them and all of these things. But I found a way. I just think that if you have that mindset of really setting yourself goals, then you just got to keep chipping away at it until you find that path that opens up for you, and keep believing in yourself to be able to do it, and it'll happen.
Yeah, amazing. Do you have what did you say, like, to imbue that value? Did you have anything you did with your kids to kind of guide them and teach them,
Yeah.
was it?
I think it's a difficult one, because I was very conscious of not wanting to impose my ambitions on my children. I'm a firm believer that they are their own people, and that they will find their own way, and that they will have their own journey. And having said that, I feel that by modeling the behavior, your children will see what you're doing and hopefully aspire to do the same thing. And that's certainly what my kids have done. My kids look at me and often say to me and say, I received a beautiful message from my younger son the other day, just saying how much I've inspired him and how much he values everything I've done for him in his life. And he's had a tough journey in his life by no means. So this is why I say everyone has their own journey, and it's not a smooth path for everybody. But I think we just need to be us, and we need to do what's right for us while loving the people around us. And then hopefully the kids will pick up on that. But obviously you need to have some boundaries in place for kids. Kids are kids, right? So you've
Yeah,
got
I
to
love that
teach them
though.
right and
Just
wrong.
modeling it. That probably is the best way to teach. Yeah.
Yeah. You call yourself a wellness architect, and I'm curious to get your interpretation of what that is and what it means in practice. And what do you think that most people get wrong when it comes to wellness?
Yeah. I mean, the title started to suit me even more when I built a place. So there was that, but I actually kind of used that title well before that. And it really had to do with the way that each of us, I think we all should see ourselves as wellness architects in our own lives, and essentially view every thought, every decision, every choice, whether it be our partners, our jobs, our place of living, all the way through to whether we decide to do hyperbaric chambers, or not. Just that all of these are building blocks, and all of these are tools and methods and materials by which we can architect or build a life. And it's a little bit, when I look at it, it's kind of a little bit chicken and the egg sort of relationship, because we can start from the body. If we just take HBOT, I know that people that do several sessions in a row will really feel sort of a brightness in their mind and in their consciousness, or hot and cold therapy, doing sauna and cold plunge or something like that. You do feel a reset, and you do feel a shift, and it does kind of affect mood. And you might go in feeling a bit average and come out feeling better, more grounded, more alert, more balanced. And And yet, if you're not looking at the source of why we came in feeling that way in the first place, you're kind of just nursing yourself along. And I think I see a lot in my clients, in my friends, and even in myself, particularly when I was younger. I had priorities that were not really aligned with health. And so I would essentially do things that I knew were terrible for me.
Love.
And I still have little habits like that, my screen is one of those. Like, I still know that every minute I spend on my phone has a cost.
Yeah.
And it's not a small cost. It's like a decent price I'm paying for having a smartphone, or for sitting in an office. And sometimes I still make terrible decisions and just spend way too much time on these devices. And then I pay the price, But basically, yeah, the architecture is like just becoming aware, not trying to be a monk, not trying to be perfect, but just becoming aware that all of these decisions matter. And I think I met a guy recently. He was really inspiring in many ways, but he was also one of these people who was massively driven, was interested in making money, was into finance, was making some very questionable decisions in terms of his work life, and was equally was also kind of part of his passion was in wellness. And he was injecting peptides, and he was injecting stem cells and doing some quite fringe sort of wellness stuff, like right at the edge of what's available, and some of it not even legal in Australia, New Zealand, so he was doing kind of travel wellness kind of therapies. And I could just see how it kind of overlaps a little bit. If you're doing that sort of thing, it's not too far off to maybe use steroids for muscle mass and to kind of slip into these other realms. And he was also, struggling with some aspects of just contentment and mental health, And so I don't think that's that rare. I think most of us are kind of doing a little bit of both, and we're like, sure, I'm going to do a bit of yoga, but then I'm just going to work too long and too late, and just really throw myself out of balance in other ways, or drink too much, or whatever, whatever habit. And so I think as architects, if we kind of zoom out on our life a little bit, and we just take a breath and we go, okay, out of the structure that I built for myself, what is it that's serving me the least? Where is it that I feel the worst? When is it that I feel the most out of balance? And we start working with those building blocks, and finding ways to create balance from that side. I think we'll see more value than we'd expect. So I still, to this day, I architect wellness programs, I architect, speeches, and I architect, all the things that I do. And so the titles served me well. I've had it for quite a while.
It's obviously worked for you, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I think when we look at the wellness industry, we've seen it progress significantly from 20 plus years ago. I think it used to be a space to go on a retreat, used to be something that you'd go and have some downtime and maybe go get a facial and a massage and so on. But the industry's moved a long way since then. And I think that those that want to go onto a retreat are looking for more these days, particularly as people are starting to get a better understanding of the fact that they can control how well or how badly that they age. And I know that Autoha is positioned as a place for regeneration and not a place to escape. What's the difference in your mind, and why does that distinction matter from a longevity perspective?
Yeah, what a great question. I think every you could essentially put every wellness experience on a sort of continuum. You can have beautiful, healthy retreats that are mostly focused on luxury or mostly focused on outside in. You can go to places like Shiva Som, and I think you can get a boob job and get some, a butt lift, and then just sit there by the pool and drink green smoothies and, do kind of a mix of all sorts of stuff, and it's all optional, and it's kind of all open, and it's a little bit just mixed, I guess, in its purpose. And then you can do things that are even much more focused than Adarha. You can you can do some really intense cleanses. I've done some things, man, in my life that are just like,
Really?
whoa, yeah, oh my God.
Like what?
Uh,
Like what? You're going to
oh,
tell me what?
oh Lord. Okay. I went to a place once, like one of the most intense dietary cleanses. So you can do intense in any area,
Mm-hmm.
or you can do kind of a more broad sort of wellness experience. Most places are more broad. Actually, Adarha, I would say, if I were to just, where do we sit on the continuum? We are leaning into several modalities all at once, but not too intensely. We're really authentically trying to shift your physical well-being. We're trying to, reduce biological age. We're trying to improve your cardiovascular health, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we're not doing it at its level 10. We're just leaning in. It's like you're doing all these practices at like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. So it's kind of palatable. It's, I think people can digest and handle what we're doing. And I'm really proud of that. Like a very wide range of people come to Adarha. We're going to get to hang out together, you and I. And I find that whether you're a professional or whether you're just brand new doing your first yoga class, that somehow this program meets people where they are and uplifts from there, and I think that's because of this kind of broad and yet steady practice across many different genres. But if you want high intensity, if there's something you really want to go after, like maybe you have irritable bowel syndrome, or you want to, let's say, really understand where your suffering comes from, right? You could pick an area of wellness and go hard and deep dive. Okay, so I went to this place called Golden Rock once, and I did a 9-day cleanse with them. And this 9-day cleanse, basically, you're fasting the whole time, and they're taking you through a sort of procedural cleanse where you're essentially working through different organs as you're fasting. So you're essentially not eating. The first day, you kind of have like a little bowl of soup with some vegetables, and then that was it. And within that 9 days, you're drinking things like carrot ginger. Carrot garlic juice. So they would imagine like fresh garlic cloves juiced in carrot juice. Right? So these like terrible things. And then it gets weirder. And then you're doing ozone gas. We did ozone gas rectally. So they would take like a balloon of ozone gas and give you an enema essentially with ozone gas because ozone is antimicrobial, antibacterial, antifungal. They're basically giving it to you in all the ends. And I mean, you can do a lot of stuff. But we were drinking I remember there was this one day where it was like the peak day, and they were doing the liver gallbladder flush, which is fairly common. But I just felt like this place really had ratcheted up the intensity on everything. And we were taking 3 Epsom salt shots. And I don't know if any of you have ever drank Epsom salts in water, but man, it is intense. But basically what happens if you take enough salt into your body stops absorbing the salt and it just flushes everything out, right? I mean, I ended up like vomiting, like, cause I was just like, there were parts of me that had an unhealthy relationship to doing everything at the highest intensity. I was going to complete every aspect of that cleanse. I didn't care what, like, you weren't going to like beat me, And so even though I felt terrible and I knew that this shot was going to like just tip me over, I mean, I still did it. And then there I was like vomiting and both ends. And I mean, we did coffee enemas, we did all sorts of stuff. So, did I cleanse my system? Absolutely. Like that was an intense cleanse. And I felt very weak at the end, but I have no doubt, like if I were dealing with something that, was systemic, where I thought my digestion or some of my organs really needed a reset, something like that would, I think, be appropriate. Autoimmune, some of these kind of mysterious things that Western medicine really has almost no answer for. I would really start from the gut, and I would start with organ cleansing, and I would do something similar to that, and then build myself up from there and work my way through my body. But at the time I was just trying things, and I was there with people who were really sick, and people that were where this was kind of one of their last hopes, and people had great results from it.
Amazing. when they get those sorts of results, I know there's a number of clinics overseas and some in Mexico, and there's a lady here in Australia that she was diagnosed with terminal cancer twice and has gone to this Hope for Cure, what's it called? Hope for Cure Cancer Clinic in Mexico, I think it is.
Yes. Yeah.
And she has no evidence of disease now at all. I mean, can you imagine
Amazing.
that, being diagnosed with terminal cancer, not once, but twice, and then going to this clinic in Mexico, and now she has no evidence of disease? Like,
Incredible.
it's just
So good.
mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing, and just a testament to how alternative treatments, therapies can be complementary to traditional treatments as well. But there are other options out there other than traditional treatments, I think, as well. So
yeah, I mean, and there's great evidence, for things like fasting adjunct to, chemotherapy and things like that. So well worth looking into, and evidence-based if that's what you need to try something,
Yeah, and hyperbaric oxygen. You mentioned HBOT as well. Hyperbaric oxygen treatment is given to a lot of cancer patients as well. There's a place here on the Gold Coast where there's a lot of cancer patients that go there to get treatment. There's some good research that backs that as well. I'm thinking forward now to later in the year where you and I will get to hang out, hopefully, at one of our Live or Longer retreats that my colleague Camilla Thompson and I will come to Oroha and co-host.
So excited for this. Can't wait.
Yeah, I think it's just a really great union of like-minded sort of thinking, and having visited Oroha over the Christmas New Year break in Queenstown or in Glenorchy recently, I can vouch for the location being absolutely spectacular. It's breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking how beautiful it is. So people can get an insight of what to expect from the Oroha experience. When they arrive there, I know that Cam and I are going to be rolling out what we do in terms of our biohacking masterclasses and coaching sessions and so on, and we'll be doing testing, inviting our guests to be doing testing beforehand. But the Oroha experience itself on site, give us a bit of an insight of what guests could expect to experience.
Yeah. So we offer 7-day and 5-day Revive and Thrive programs, and they are retreats where the group arrive together, and the first day is really just landing. So we have a tailored well-being team, and that team offers various ways of tailoring the retreat experience to the individual. So everything from adjusting program to adjusting diet, all the way through to, measuring biological age or booking an acupuncture treatment or something like that. So there's many ways that we can kind of allow the retreat to suit the individual. And then we get right into it. We get people moving right away. We go for a hike that very first day. We climb a mountain, and then we also stretch out, do some yoga, have some dinner, and then we open the circle together. And then once we're into the retreat, each day is building. So we have a format that we call the Arc of Oroha, and it's evolved over years, and it continues to evolve. And we continue to craft the best possible team that we can, but also the best possible experience. So the Arc basically just suggests that each day doesn't just kind of sit in a vacuum. Each day stands on the day previous, which stands on the day previous. So each day we're kind of building through the program the guests' awareness around everything from how to hike through to maybe how to connect more deeply with nature. So we'll do silent sections in walking and forest bathing and things of that sort, all the way through to how to, make healthy food for yourself. So you might be learning about nutrition from the chefs, sometimes in little micro learnings at the table, but sometimes you're in the kitchen doing sessions with the chefs. And so these arcs essentially play out. And the intention is really just to create the most impactful wellness experience we can possibly come up with. And so you're invited, if you're interested, if it suits you, and it doesn't suit everybody, but you're invited essentially to take yourself into therapeutic levels of ketosis. And we can measure your levels of ketosis if you want, but you can also just do it. And so we'll remain in therapeutic levels, moderate to high levels of ketosis for a day or two, and then slowly bring you out of that. And by the end, you're really ready to go. And so we're really proud that we've measured the effects of the program both through people's lenses, if you will. In other words, we measure and track people's experiences, what they feel about those experiences, where they rate their experience within all of the experiences they've ever had. And there's an enormously high percentage of people that consider their time with us to be one of the peak experiences of their lives. And all the way through down to the physical. And we look at HRV and sleep and any data we can get our hands on. It's I call it data-led storytelling. Just that we like to make sure that we're paying attention to what's happening with people, and so that's kind of the experience. By the end, there's a bit of an arc to the whole thing, and we talk about something called the J curve, just this kind of traditional process that you might go through in our programs where you're doing the work. It's like the rubber hits the road and we lean into things. And then by the end, the buzz is unmistakable. And I think it's why Aroha does so well in the world and is so well regarded is I think it's quite unique. I would say I haven't been to retreats that do what we're doing. I've really just taken the best of everything that I found across the years and woven it together. And we're particularly excited about you guys because you bring something that we dip our toes into, but you're doing it in such a new way. And I have no doubt that we will vibe off each other and thrive off each other. And I think I'm really looking forward to that special retreat.
Yeah, likewise. What are the top 3 changes that you tend to see in people who come along to an Aroha retreat?
Man, the closing circles. If I could somehow bottle up the closing circle and not make it invasive, like if somehow I could just put a camera on what people say in the closing circles, it's like sometimes it's just the most beautiful stuff.
I love that you have a closing circle. Such a beautiful way to finish.
It's really nothing all that special except that we get together and we all get to sit together. We've sat together at the beginning and just said hello. And then it just, it's only 6 or 7 days later. And then we're in this circle, but it's like, we're like good friends, it's like really like powerful relationships are made. And I think that, I guess if I were to theme it, for one, people feel in a sense that the world is good, that people are good. I think it's so easy to feel like the world is effed.
Especially lately.
Lately. Totally, right? I mean, the world is a bit effed. But I mean, it isn't, it's like there are good people everywhere, like in every country, doing good things with good hearts and good intentions. And I actually really firmly believe that even the people that are pulling triggers and thieving and whatever we might consider to be bad, like they're really doing the best that they possibly can with what they have, And so people come back to this place of like camaraderie and connection, not only with individuals with this group, but with their own purpose and what they feel about their own lives and about themselves. And essentially one of the arcs we call the arc of insight, where we really look at these lenses using IFS and a multiplicity model. And the analogy is essentially that you have an outer family, the people that you run into in your day-to-day life, not only your actual family, but your peers and your roommates and people you work with, et cetera. So there's this outer relating, but there's also this inner relating, and there's an inner family. And in different ways, people just express this coming home to their true nature, the awareness, the consciousness that holds their experience, and then a sort of peace with the parts of them that exist that are driving their lives along. And then, of course, we have people that have experiences that are really beautiful in the physical body. People that might have arthritis or something, and they say, I can't remember the last time I didn't have pain in my body, and I don't have pain in my body. And so there's kind of this genre where people have physical shifts in eyesight, shifts in symptoms. And so it's like it's like tough love because you are working. Like I would guess that most people in the closing circle, their muscles would be like a bit sore, and they're like, they also just like really went through something that kind of where they really challenged themselves and maybe did things that they didn't think they could. And so, but it's like, there's nothing better than achieving something when you don't think that you can and feeling that reward on the other side of it. So yeah, those are probably the main pieces of it.
It's such a dopamine hit when you do realize that you have been able to do something that you didn't think that you could do.
Yeah.
I think that you're on a high, right? Like if you had never climbed a mountain before and you go out and you go climb a mountain and you get to the top and you're like, holy moly, I did it. How awesome am I, right?
It's so good.
And I think that's just such a wonderful gift to give to people, I think. And this is what I love about retreats such as Oraha, where people can go there and can push outside of their boundaries, can learn something new about themselves, but also be given that gift of knowing that there are good people and good things in this world, particularly when there is an environment out there that can be perceived as not being so good. But I do believe that is often driven by people's pain and trauma. And we haven't done a good enough job as a global society to really tackle that, to tackle people's pain, to tackle people's trauma, and try to help them understand why that behavior is where it's coming from and why it's happening. So I mean, that's pretty deep, I suppose. But
I'm with you.
I just kind of think it's this, we're looking around the world and seeing all this stuff happen. We're like, but we're not asking why and what can we do to stop it?
Yeah. And then trauma begets trauma, like if somebody's abused, the likelihood that they would abuse someone near them is very high, so it also kind of explains why these cycles just kind of keep playing out. But
yeah. If someone only had 20 minutes a day at home in which they want to create some change in their life, what's the minimum effective reset stack that you would recommend?
Oh, interesting. 20 minutes. You know what I would do is I would look at your mix because you're probably already doing some things that are great. And so I wouldn't add in that area. One of my favorite habits is just to observe in myself, what is it that I do that pulls me most out of center, and then work within that arena. Because what we tend to do is whatever we're good at, like if meditation is easy for me, but movement is hard, like I don't like to feel the burn of my muscles, I'll tend to double down on meditation and sit for 30 minutes instead of 20, but actually I'd probably get more benefit from just getting out and moving my body. And so I would just have a look at what you're doing. Is it nutrition? Is it, what do you feel in your body? What do you notice? How's your sleep? And wherever that greatest weakness is, give that 20 minutes to that, and find a practice. I'm a big fan of keeping things as simple as you can and working on just one thing at a time. It's one of the things that we build into our retreats. We call it taking it higher, but it's basically we use the Hunter method, and it just suggests that if you just do one thing, but do it well and do it for long enough that you get to reap the rewards and lock it in as a habit, cool, and then move on and go do it again. And so taking something bite-sized in your wellness regimen that you think is the greatest opportunity for creating improvement in your life, and then it might involve a little research or deciding what really suits your lifestyle or your day, your timings. Like I'm not somebody, some people wake up at like 5 a.m. and will do the gym and do this, and even your story of being a mother and being up really late and up early. Like I really struggle when I don't sleep well, So in general, I let myself sleep. I've built a life where like I can sleep 8 hours, and thank God I love it so much. I'm just like, oh God, I can't do well. Even 7 hours, like I'm a bit average at 7 hours,
Same.
So I do. Yeah. But some people can really do it, and if you're one of those people, cool. You can dial in your 20-minute stack into wherever you want, and so the the latest one for me that I've been working on in my life, because I realized that my phone was probably my worst, certainly my worst habit that I have at this point in my life, was just around not taking my phone to bed. And so I give myself an hour, at the very least 45 minutes, where I just turn off my phone. We've got chargers in the bathroom, and I just make sure that my phone doesn't come to bed with me.
Yeah. 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 That's a no. Don't take your phone to bed with
I
you.
know, right? You would think I would have already known that one, but I was still doing it. That was my weakness,
My husband does the same, and I'm like, you are not coming into bed if you bring that phone with you.
Good girl. Yeah, we need a bit of a shaping up sometimes, us boys. And a lot of times we know it, you probably already know what you should be doing. And it's like, yeah.
You do, but I think you get caught in the trap of the the doom scrolling or thinking, oh, I've just got to answer one more email, and it's still going to be there the next day. And I like to really do that digital detox. I unlike my husband, he can go to sleep like that, regardless of how recently he's used his phone. But if I'm on my phone or a laptop or anything like that, an hour before bed, I will not be able to get to sleep for 2 to 3 hours. That's how big an impact it has on my sleeping patterns. And so, like you, I have to have a minimum 7 to 8 hours sleep to be able to function properly these days. I certainly can't do what I used to do back when I was younger, that's for sure. And yeah, so I'm a big advocate of putting that phone away. I actually have mine in a completely separate room because I don't want to be having the EMF exposure or anything like that. I just lock it away for the night.
Great. Yeah. Amazing.
We often focus on the physical in when we're looking at health and wellness, but quite often, and we've touched on this when we've just spoken about trauma, we often miss out on the importance of that inner work that we need to do, the emotional well-being of ourselves. Where do you think that emotional fitness fits with longevity, and why do you think so many people keep ignoring it until they come along to a retreat and have an aha moment?
Yeah. It is odd that we tend to almost ignore. It's not that we don't feel our emotions. Like, it's not that we don't feel our anxieties and our worries and our stress and everything. We feel them. But essentially, what's happening is we all have parts of ourselves that have learned certain things through our lives. Every thought that you've ever had was, in a sense, taught to you, right? Through language, through parents, through culture, through your television, whatever it is. And so we all have these parts that have beliefs about ourselves, about our lives, about, what we should do and what we shouldn't do and what others should do and what they shouldn't do. And so these parts of us are essentially in kind of a dynamic relating with our lives, and it's not at all uncommon for parts to feel like they haven't done enough, that they haven't achieved enough, that others haven't done the right things, or, et cetera, et cetera. And we essentially roll along. In fact, it's kind of like the job of these parts of us is literally to find what's wrong and make it right. So those parts are looking within us. They are critiquing what we do, what we say, how we behave. They can be quite hard on us. And then they also do the same thing outwardly to other people. And that mechanism, these parts, like doing their best to create the best life possible, to solve the problems, to fix the challenge, to overcome the obstacle, they're really trying to make our lives good. And yet they can very easily be so highly tuned through just one belief, through just one belief is enough to create a sort of hyper focus, or a sort of or an obsessiveness, or an excess worry, or something like that. And then that one belief, or what I would call a lens, then essentially continues to play out through our lives. And each of our parts in our bodies have lenses, and it's not uncommon to have a few lenses or beliefs that are driving a lot of what we do and why we do it. And those beliefs are not often conscious, they're kind of unconscious. So what I mean by unconscious is that we will tick along, driving hard, pushing this, making that choice, or making this choice, not really understanding what's underneath and why we're actually doing that. And so that system, while in some ways, our systems are elegant, they're incredible, they achieve so much. Like you can see what humans do in this world, and it's beautiful, it's complex, it's unique in this world, but it's also has built into it this tendency towards creating suffering. The Buddha says life is dukkha, life is suffering. He's not saying all of our lives are suffering. What he really is saying is like our tendency is to generate suffering within us. And so I feel like, we all have kind of our understandings of different words, but for me, spirituality is just unburdening my own system, finding these beliefs, finding these insecurities, finding these fears and resentments and grievances and, these lenses that exist inside my parts, and one by one, piece by piece, unwinding them, resolving them, allowing my internal space to move more freely. And so it's the same work if somebody's dealing with actual trauma, but even what I would refer to as like little t trauma, which I don't know if you can get through life without some, I just find it essentially unimaginable that we could live even to the age that you and I are without having gone through some pretty significant challenges, and some pretty significant ups and downs. And then what I love about this work is that those ups and downs and those challenges, through no fault of your own or through no fault of anyone else's, those challenges and obstacles are the perfect key or the perfect teacher to unlock, even greater potential, even greater wisdom, even greater freedom within us. So as we move through life, we are offered these opportunities to grow through. And I love this. This space is where I like to spend time personally. I like to apply what I learn within my own life, and I've been blessed to see some really incredible work done with people where you're just in there and you're unlocking the most incredible freedom and love and connection and compassion and kindness in people, in spite of what has happened to them. Even though the horrible thing has happened, even though horrible people exist, and it's like, and when I see that stuff and I see it like that's possible for all of us, it's like that's where I want to spend time.
Yeah, and it's such a powerful space to spend time in, I think. It really, really is. I think that there are some people that might find it difficult to achieve a balance between productivity and wellness. And I know that I certainly have struggled with that in the past. What's one belief that you have had to unlearn about productivity in order to build this new life for yourself, but still be able to achieve and be successful without actually wrecking your own health?
Yeah, it's like pops right up for me because it's one that has shown its head in so many different ways, actually, not only in productivity, but in other areas of my life. But it's just the belief that I'm not good enough, that there's something wrong with me, and that it's weird. Like I can see genius in others. I see skill in others. I see amazing things in other people. It's easier to see it in other people. And then there's this part of me that's just like, you don't have it, you're like not enough. I see every mistake I make. I see every name I forget. I see every stumble, it's like every single blip. I'm like front row seat to my own idiocracy. And I have over the years, I would say that part has softened back, like it's kind of been heard enough. It's been seen enough. It's been worked with enough that it's like, okay, you're right. I'm overreacting, okay. You're enough. You're more than enough. Okay. This is enough. It's more than enough. And it's been a cool place to work, and what, I've seen this in my clients as well. Like I had one of my favorite clients, a good friend of mine, actually. We're in a circle at one point, and we're doing parts work. So we're in the space that you and I are in right now, and we're talking about a part of him that's angry, that gets angry, that uses anger to get what he wants, right? The part of me that thinks I'm not good enough is doing that in order for me to be even better. It's highlighting what's wrong with me so that I can, come on. It's like prodding me, right? It's like poking me. It's like, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough, so that I can be even more epic. Now, it's a tough master, right? Because it can bring me to my knees if I'm not careful. And this guy had a part that was like, anger is what makes people listen. Anger is what gets things done. Nobody will listen to you if you don't raise your voice and like come with some fire, you know? And I remember sitting with like, we're doing this work, you know? And he goes, Damian, he's like, I wouldn't have a business if I didn't have anger, you know? And it's like, yeah. So there's the lens.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, with this part of me that thinks I'm not good enough, why does it have to keep hounding me about not being good enough? It believes that I won't act. I won't do anything. I won't improve myself. I won't work on things. I won't actually do what needs to be done without it actually highlighting every fault I possibly have. That would be a belief that it has. And then all I have to do is kind of go, is that true? Is that totally true? Can I not show up to work and feel like I'm enough? Like, would I actually, if I felt like I was enough and I just asked this part to just relax, trust me, I'm enough. Don't worry. You don't need to hound me. And would I still show up to work? Would I still, meet with Azra and record a podcast or whatever? And the answer, of course, is yes. And, for this guy who was using anger to run his business, it's like, can you have a successful business without using anger to drive everything that it makes you successful? Of course you can. Like, it's insane, right? When you say it out loud. And yet, if you don't slow down enough to get to know these parts and what they believe and why they're doing what they're doing, you actually will just keep playing these roles out inside you, and you'll just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And then when you do take the time and you do unpack this stuff, you're like, okay, I got it. Got it. And then you can move on.
I think we all have that voice in our heads, and I know I certainly do. And that tells us that we're not good enough, or that we can't do something, or beats us up. And one thing that I have found that works really effectively, and my husband actually wrote a book on this, that you name that voice in your head, so that you look at that voice in your head as a different persona, and you can tell that voice in your head to shut the hell up. All right, yeah, I'm listening to you. Okay, I heard you. Now leave me alone. I'm going to go do this. Right?
Yeah,
Stop telling me I can't, but I'm going to go do it because I know I can, despite the fact that you're telling me I can't. Right?
Yeah, I love it.
And so I think if we can identify that voice in our head is not always right, that sometimes it's just this seed of doubt that keeps playing around and mucking around with us, and it comes down to, I think, protectionism, because it's trying to protect us. So it's like, oh no, you shouldn't go and start a new job because you've got a secure job here and you're earning good money, and you don't. And even though if you're unhappy, it doesn't mean that you need to change, because things are okay. Yeah, you're unhappy, but that doesn't matter. You're still getting a good income. So no, it's safer to stay here. Don't go there, because we don't know what's going to happen over here. Are we going to be able to get the same amount of money? Is it going to be secure? Is it? We don't know. So I think that this is the voice in our head is trying to do good by trying to protect us, but it also inhibits us from being able to grow, I think, and achieve new things. And when we can identify it as in a weird way, a different persona, then perhaps we can manage it a little bit more effectively. I was reflecting on what you were saying about that friend of yours who believes that he has to have anger. I think that I've worked in the corporate sector for 20 years now, and I think that a lot of women in the corporate sector have felt that they had to very much tap into their masculine energy in order to be able to succeed in the corporate sector, just because of the inherent patriarchal system that it has been for so long. I think I've started to see a shift in that more recently, but it's still there. I'm still seeing it, to the point where I've seen some women trample over other women in order to be able to achieve their goals. And so I just think it's really interesting to see how we manage that moving forward? And keen to hear your thoughts on whether you experience that back in the corporate sector as well, in terms of having to be a certain way, have a certain mindset to be able to succeed, when now you're advocating that, well, you don't necessarily have to be in a place of anger to be able to succeed.
Yeah, there's a lot there to unpack. It's a good question. I mean, I do think if I were to label like what's masculine and what's feminine, that I do think it's like the creating, the building, the hammering, the constructing, the kind of that whole aspect of what we do as humans is kind of a masculine trait. Like men kind of build the house, and the feminine inhabits and makes it warm and makes it inviting and makes it delicious and in just kind of a traditional way, right? And I think all of us have masculine and feminine. So even I would say actually what we were just talking about there of kind of getting to know yourself and being a little bit more sensitive and aware of what's driving you, I would say that's actually more of a feminine trait, And so the masculine is kind of bullheaded and kind of just like goal oriented and driven and all of those things, and the feminine is sensitive and caring and maybe more deeply connected, I would say, through relationships and things of that sort. So I like the idea of kind of thinking of like what's masculine and what's feminine. I also think ultimately we are all some mix of that, and you certainly have female bodies that are very masculine and male bodies that are very feminine. And so we do all take on some mix. I think we're happier and I think we're healthier and I think we're even more successful the more we can be ourselves, the more we can be authentic, the more we can take the hats off when we're working. It's not like you just want to be unfiltered, at work. It's not like you just want to like let everything out. But I think who you are really deep down, and your views and your opinions and your likes and your dislikes is valuable. And the more, aligned you can be with that authenticity, the more free your energy will be, the more fun you'll have, the more funny you'll be. It's like all the restriction, it happens as we get older, doesn't it? It's like we all are inside of every single one of us is still this kind of playful, fun, inner, just child, if you want to call it that, but just youthfulness that really just wants to enjoy life. And then there's something about getting older, and like here we are at 50, and it's like you can maybe see the end of the runway, and you're like, and what does that do to our parts? It's like all of a sudden all these other responsibilities and concerns and worries start piling on, and need to do this and need to have enough, and all of that, in a sense, can limit how much we enjoy our lives. And I think at work, this is one of the reasons I jumped ship and got into wellness, actually, going back to your first question, was I had this realization that I spend more time at work than I do at home.
Yeah.
If you do a 40-hour work week, like you're spending a chunk of time at work. And in a sense, your work is your first partner. And potentially even more important partner than, your romantic partner or partners. And so how I feel at work and my relationship to my work is like, it's right up there with any other relationship. It's right up there with any other thing that's important. And so I think it's a great, great place for all of us to spend time, like just noticing, how do I feel at work? Do I feel comfortable? Do I feel free? Do I feel connected? And, of course, there's great work we can do if we don't, so yeah, work as a teacher and as a platform and as a place, like it's one of the most important things, one of the most important places we'll spend time in this whole life.
Yeah, definitely. And I think learning to show vulnerability is an important achievement as well in the work environment. When I see leaders that are able to show a degree of vulnerability, I think that they make a much better leader. They're actually more relatable, is what I see, and I think that they garner more loyalty.
I've really wondered, I know you've probably had an experience, I know I have, of working for somebody who was just a ball buster. Like
Oh,
I've worked for people who were just
yep.
like I had nightmares, like
Yeah.
it was literally like just the harshest people. And I will say that they ran a tight ship,
Mm.
like that those places where I worked, and one in particular that I remember, like the most intense boss I ever had, you were constantly in fear that if you made one little mistake, you were going to hear about it and it wasn't going to be soft or kind. And there was a knowingness that everybody was under that same pressure, and there was a like kind of a result from that in the way that we work together. And equally, like now, like I run Otter Hat, like it's a big family, like I live here on site and people come over for, cacao in the morning, and we socialize together, and there aren't very many boundaries. Like I'm not actually that professional with my team in the sense of kind of having work and life separate. It's much more like we're a family and we create something together. And I noticed that there's a lot more in the relating side of things. Like I just have a lot more conversations with people about their personal lives. And I think ultimately we all probably feel more connected. And I think you're right. There's more vulnerability. There's more humanness. There's more heart in what we do. It just comes with all that relating stuff, which I totally get. Like for some people, it's like, no, I'm just going to crack the whip and that's going to be it. So
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, despite the fact that you're taking a different approach in your leadership at Autoha, you guys have swept up a whole heap of awards last year for
yeah, we
Autoha.
work hard.
So, right. So it's working well. The
It works.
approach, the environment, the culture that you have fostered there seems to be working well, because you're sweeping up all of the awards. People are loving coming to the retreat. I know of quite a few people that have been there and have raved about it. So I think you're a testament to the fact that you don't always have to lead in that very strong sort of way. But I do just think back to when I was working as a broadcast journalist, and I remember somebody saying to me that the rest of the team were all very intimidated by me. And I'm like, what? What do you mean they're all intimidated by me? I'm not intimidated. And they're like, yeah, you're such a ball breaker. You don't take shit from anyone. And
Yeah.
everybody's really intimidated by you. And I'm like, no. And so it's just really interesting to see what people's perceptions are of you. And I do think I've softened a lot in my old age. And I think that was contributed, I suppose, the way I was being at that time in my life was contributed by my cultural heritage as well. And people, if you're from a certain culture, whether it's Bosnian, which is what my heritage is, or whether it's German or Dutch or whatever, we do tend to be tainted with this brush of being very direct and blunt people in the way we speak and engage with people. And I know my husband's Australian, and he would always say, oh, geez, come on, just soften it up a little bit, And I'm like, so I've worked really hard to soften things over the years. So I hope
Yeah, I don't
I'm
get that
shaping
from
that.
you at all
Oh,
anymore. So
oh,
you've
oh,
definitely
good,
softened it. Yeah, you've
good.
done well.
Can you tell Gary next time we meet up?
I
So
do also I do think there's a middle, isn't there? There's like
there is.
it's like can you have a hard conversation in a kind way? Of course you can. Like any conversation, like even if you have to fire somebody or you have to or ask for a raise or whatever, or somebody's misbehaving or whatever, I really, that's kind of one of the things I practice, is because I notice there's often a part of me that doesn't want to have a difficult conversation, and then a part that might, I don't know, be in relationship to that. And I keep like the thing I keep practicing is like, can I have this difficult conversation in a kind way and make sure I have the conversation, so that you're not avoiding, it's like I think people almost feel like you're either wishy-washy, softy, pushover kind of, or you're just an absolute ball buster. And where I aim anyways is like somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I like that. I like to try to find somewhere in the middle. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, let's play this or that.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a couple options, and I want you to choose one out of the two options that I'm going to give you. All right.
For me,
For you.
I'm choosing for myself. Okay,
You're
great.
choosing for yourself. So,
Okay, great.
all right. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Cold plunge or sauna?
Ooh, cold.
Okay. Mountains or ocean?
Oh gosh, these are tough. I'm gonna go mountains.
You have to. You live in Ottawa.
I know, but I love them both, and I miss the ocean
Yeah.
sometimes. So it's actually quite a hard question. Yeah.
Barefoot on earth or compression boots?
Barefoot.
Meditation or movement?
Ooh, meditation.
Silence or music?
Music.
Nature immersion or a perfect supplement stack?
Nature immersion.
Breathwork or journaling?
Breath work.
Early nights or slow mornings?
Can I have both?
Sure, I'll give you both. Because you do both. We discussed that already. Digital detox or data tracking?
Ooh, digital detox. Yeah.
High intensity workouts or long, slow movement?
High intensity.
Rituals or routines?
Routines.
Minimalism or comfort?
Minimalism.
Guided retreat or solo reset?
Guided retreat.
The final one powerful habit done daily or a full reset once a year?
One powerful habit done daily.
Yeah. Awesome.
How good are those? I love that.
It's just interesting, isn't it, to kind of really think about, well, which one would I choose?
Yeah. And I noticed some almost kind of like, that was fun.
Hard to choose some of them.
That. Yeah.
Hey, look, we've run out of time, but I could talk to you for hours. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on the pod. It's been an absolute delight to have a chat to you. And I can't wait for us to be able to get together, hopefully later this year, to do our Live Well Longer retreat with you guys at Ottawa. And I'll pop some details about that in our show notes. But Damian, thank you so much, and really grateful for your time today. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. See you soon.
Well, that's a wrap for today's podcast. Thank you for tuning in. And if you'd like to learn more about biohacking, go ahead and sign up on my website at www.biohack-her.com to get a free copy of my 5 top biohacks to get you kick-started. While you're there, you can also check out my blog page for more tips on biohacking. If you'd like to subscribe to this podcast, you can do so on Apple, Spotify, and Google Play. Let us know if there's anyone you'd like us to talk to in particular, and we'll endeavour to get them on the podcast. Until next time, remember to live well longer.